I first met Jane at the regional finals of the Slim Secrets Slimmer of the Year Awards. No, we weren't nominated. We were acting as supporting partners to my wife, Gail, and Jane's husband, Andy. We bonded over boredom. Our spouses both went to the same weight loss club, and both have had exceptional success. "They both look good, don't they?" Jane said, introducing herself. "Yes, they've both had good results. Are you proud of him?" "Well, he's worked hard. He deserves this recognition, but to be honest, I thought he was good before. I loved him when he was a skinny teenager. I loved him as a chubby groom and fat husband. I always thought he was beautiful. It was for him, not for me. What about you?" "Well, I fell in love with her when she was bigger, and I always thought she was beautiful, but she never listened to me. I couldn't make her feel it. She needed it to feel good. If she's happy, I'm happy. Happy wife, happy life, and all that. Just don't tell her that now that she's lost weight, the hugs aren't as nice." Jane laughs. "No, I know what you mean. Andy isn't as comfortable as he used to be either." When our spouses came off the stage, I met Andy for the first time. He was flushed with success, but there was something about his arrogant smile that I wasn't comfortable with. Something about the way he'd touched Gail's back without hesitation. Something about the way he lingered too long when Gail hugged him goodbye. I tried not to think about it, but it annoyed me. Indeed, Gail had become more narcissistic lately. On the way home, we talked in the car. "I don't really like your friend Andy. He seemed a little too friendly." "Well, he's my friend. He understands how hard this journey has been for me. He's been very supportive of me." "And I haven't?" "No, you've been wonderful. You're wonderful, but how can you understand what it's like? You could eat anything and not gain a pound. You've always looked good. Andy is just a friend who understands the struggle, because he's going through it too. You know I would never do anything to hurt you." I'd been married long enough to know when I was being cheated on, but when we got home and she slipped out of her new tight dress, I quickly forgot about Andy, and I was sure she did too. Some time passed while she was distracted by the weight loss challenge, and I was determined to make the most of it. Our sex life had always been on point. We were so good together, why would she even consider leaving? She also knew how I felt about infidelity, so I made the big mistake of confiding in the woman I loved, deciding it was better to let her have her moment of glory. After all, she had worked so hard. I thought we'd still have time to reconnect later. The following Wednesday night, Gail disappeared to the slimming club as usual. I just decided to have some time to myself, which basically meant drinking beer and watching porn. When I heard the doorbell ring, it was Jane. "We need to talk, Gary," she said as she walked past me into the hallway. "I'm sorry if I'm interrupting you." She smiled, glancing down at my briefs, which were still slightly rumpled. "Beer and porn while the wife isn't home, huh?" she said, glancing at my laptop, which I had foolishly not turned off. I was horrified. "Don't be embarrassed. I guess you haven't been getting much lately." I haven't either, considering our spouses have been getting it from each other. She burst into tears then. I could never stand to see anyone cry, so I took her in my arms and hugged her. I saw my shocked face in the mirror, trying to comprehend what she had just told me. It couldn't be true, could it? Not my Gail. She wouldn't do that to me. We were going to start trying for a baby soon as the national competition was over. We talked about it. She had promised. Finally, Jane got her sobs under control and let me lead her over to the couch. "I'm sorry I told you everything so soon. I was going to tell you gently. I've been practicing and everything, but it all came out. I'm sure you're wrong. Gail was aloof, but she's been so busy." "Yeah, busy with her husband. Look, Gary, you're a good guy, and I wouldn't make this up. I've got proof. If it makes you feel any better, I didn't suspect anything either. I was first tipped off by Dottie Keene, the old lady from the weight loss class. She saw us in the cafeteria. I was eating a brownie and Andy was drinking fruit tea. She knew him from the slimming club and seemed to resent him being with me. "You should be ashamed of yourself for leaving your beautiful wife. She adores you, keeps her eyes on you at the slimming club, and you two are always canoodling. And now here you are with this slut." She looked very shocked when I explained that I was actually his wife. She was very apologetic to me while looking at Andy. "I'm sorry, honey, that I got it all mixed up. I had one, too, who did dirty deeds with me." With those words, she sauntered back to her table, hitting Andy with her bag in the process. Of course, Andy said she was decrepit and always causing trouble at the weight loss club. He thought he'd talked me into it, but he hadn't. He had done it before we were married, and I had foolishly forgiven him. Anyway, I talked a friend from work into joining a weight loss club. She wanted to lose a few pounds and was willing to go undercover if I paid for her classes. It didn't take her long to confirm it. With those words, she held out some pictures to me. I didn't want to look. I knew my life would change forever. I didn't know how to forgive. There were a few grainy pictures of them kissing and holding hands. Worst of all was a short video taken in the darkest corner of the pub parking lot where they'd gone in for a drink after the weigh-in. It showed Andy's bare buttocks as he slid into Gail in the back seat of her car, the car I paid for every month. What a bitch. Jane gave me a few minutes to make sense of it all before she said, "So what are we going to do about it?" "Nothing yet, but it will end our marriage," I replied. I couldn't go on. I just wanted her to leave. I needed to be alone to process what she had told me, and honestly, I didn't want her to see me break down. "Why don't we meet tomorrow? I need to think things through." "Are you going to tell him what you know?" "I can wait if that's what you want. I can keep pretending." I was the one pretending that night. I pretended to be asleep when I heard Gail walk into the shower. I wondered why she wanted to do that. The next morning, I was up and out of the house before she even showed up. I called work and took the day off. I took a long walk in the park, thinking about what I should do. I texted Jane and we met at a cafe in the park. "How are you doing?" she asked. "I'm sorry I dumped it all on you last night. It was so hard to keep it all in." "I'm coping. I just need some time to plan what I'm going to do. We have a deposit on a new house. We finally stopped renting after all these years to start our own family. I need to cancel that and get the finances sorted out before I post what I know. I saved all that money. I'm paying for everything as I always have. Her money is definitely her money, and she spends everything she has on herself." "Why not just tell her?" "I think I want her to suffer a little. She's already had her fun, now it's my turn." "I'm surprised. I didn't think you'd want to tighten the screws." "I'm a Scorpio," I stated. "I'm the best friend you can have. I'm also the worst enemy you could have. She dropped everything, left me, and for what? Quick sex in a pub parking lot. I thought I was worth more than that." "You're worth more than that. She doesn't deserve you, and I deserve more than Andy, that two-faced sagging asshole." "He did look pretty saggy in the video," I admitted. "He lost weight too fast." "I have an idea how you can get revenge. I don't see why she should get half of your savings and you end up worse off." I listened while she told me her plan. It was actually quite simple. She worked at a local bookmaker's office. I was to withdraw the maximum amount of money from my savings account every day and then lose it every day like the world's unluckiest gambler. In reality, I was actually going in there every day and making only small bets, yet I was becoming known to Jane's co-workers and fellow gamblers. "What about you? How about your revenge?" "Well, I'll divorce him too. We don't have much money, but my revenge will hurt him and a lot. I'll let you in on a little secret. Andy doesn't always follow the Slimming Secrets diet. He uses low-calorie weight loss shakes to make his life easier." "So you're going to tell the judges of the national competition that he's cheating?" "No. Where's the fun in that? I'll substitute his diet shakes for a high-fat powder used to help sick people gain weight quickly. Sure, he won't gain enough weight to keep him out of the contest, but he won't win it either." "And he'll drive himself crazy trying to figure out what he's doing wrong?" "Exactly, and then at the national finals, we'll expose them both as dirty cheaters. Do you agree?" I agreed, quietly thinking about how I would never cross Jane. She was pretty scary in her petty revenge. So I had to pretend to be normal for a month. Of course, Gail was completely absorbed in preparing for the finals in London. She was constantly going to various beauty treatments here and exercise classes there. She might have been seeing Andy occasionally, but I didn't care about that anymore. She didn't even notice that I'd drifted away from her. She was too wrapped up in herself. There was only 10% left in the savings account from when I started. I was fine with her getting half. I hid the money I supposedly lost gambling. They were no longer traceable. Jane even mentioned to Andy that I was a regular at the betting shop. Andy told me that Jane often saw you at the betting shop. What does that mean? You've never been a betting enthusiast. Well, I was lonely and bored since my wife was so busy. To distract myself, I started betting. That's not a problem, is it? I lost a little, but not too much. How much? You have nothing to worry about. I'm sure we'll still be able to get our house. Don't worry about it. Just think about the competition. I'm sure you'll win. You look amazing. What do you think Andy's chances are? Not great at the moment. He's gained 10 pounds and can't figure out how to do it. He'll have to buy bigger pants for the finals. He's not happy, and the class leader is putting a lot of pressure on him. Well, not everyone handles stress well, I replied. I got the impression he was a bit of a narcissistic kid when I met him. Gail just stared at me. It seemed like she was going to defend him, but then changed her mind. Finally, the big day arrived, and we checked into a large hotel in London. Gail and Andy went to get their hair and makeup done. I suddenly realized that Gail had forgotten her grandmother's bracelet. She always wore it on special occasions. She called it her lucky charm. Even after everything that had happened, I cared and tried to take it to her. I went down to the room where they were being made up. There were so many people around that no one stopped me until I got close enough to see them holding hands and laughing together. That closeness seemed to hurt even more than the video of their escapade in the parking lot. One of the young runners laughed at the look on my face. Oh yes, our two lovebirds who were brought together at Thin Secrets. They can't leave each other alone. It's very romantic. We were interrupted when I saw the local and regional representatives rushing toward me. They were clearly concerned that I couldn't see Gail and Andy at the moment and what they were up to. I handed over the bracelet. Maybe someone would be kind enough to give this to my wife. I felt the young runner tense up as I emphasized the last phrase. Jane started to get nervous as the presentation began. She wasn't quite sure how she was going to expose them. As it turned out, she needn't have worried, as they were stupid enough to do it on their own. All the finalists came on stage, and the first to be announced was the male winner. It wasn't Andy. He had to settle for third place. No, the winner was Graham from Scotland, looking like a pierced balloon in a kilt. He'd lost 20 pounds, so he deserved my applause. When it was announced that Gail had won Slim Secret's Skinny of the Year, I cheered as loudly as everyone else. I turned to look at Jane, and there was a look of horror on her face. I followed her gaze, and then, in front of everyone, magnified on the big screen, her husband and my wife kissed. It wasn't a congratulatory kiss on the cheek. It was a lover's kiss. The crowd cheered approvingly. They recoiled from each other, shocked that they seemed to have forgotten themselves in the excitement of her success. Gail tries to guffaw, but I can see the terror in her eyes. One of the organizers rushes over to us, muttering something about the heat of the moment. Nothing to worry about, but she's too late. Jane is already halfway up the steps to the stage. She's on the runway in front of the cameras and all the press. She needs my support. Andy? Another one you promised after last time. How long? It's not what it seems. Really? Isn't this the first chapter in the cheating textbook? Because it's pretty obvious to everyone else that this is exactly what it looks like. Despite the best efforts of the organizers, I managed to catch up on my reading. Jane turns to the press. I'm the wife, she says. And I'm a husband, I add. Well, soon-to-be ex-husband. We can do an interview in the ballroom. We have some pictures we want to share with you. Some of them show that Thin Secrets was well aware of the affair between them. I'd love to tell you how they tried to hide it from both of us. So, how's this for a headline? Slim Secrets ruined my marriage. Or slim secrets kept the cheater's secrets, Jane added as I took her hand and led her down the stairs. Gail ran off to the opposite side of the stage, lamenting that her big moment had been ruined after all her hard work. I really enjoyed telling my story to the press, knowing that Gail would be horrified. Jane especially enjoyed telling the press that Andy had cheated more than once, and that part of his success was due to diet shakes. I heard one of the Thin Secrets publicists groan at this point. Later, as I was packing my suitcase, Gail emerged from the bathroom. Her professionally applied makeup was gone, and for once she resembled the wife I once knew and once loved. "Did you have to humiliate me so publicly?" I could say the same thing about you. Imagine how humiliating it was to see my wife feigning a kiss in front of the national press. It wasn't my fault. Andy caught me off guard. Not the first time, I suppose. Stop being like that, Gary. Andy means nothing to me. He was just a friend who supported me on my journey. Sleeping with you in the parking lot of a pub? If you needed that kind of support, you have a husband. Look, I admit I got carried away. The fact that someone else finds me attractive after all these years was exciting. I was always the fat girl no one wanted until you came along. You were beautiful even then. If the others didn't see that, that's their problem. I loved you and thought you were perfect. Shouldn't that have meant something? It should. I was never going to leave you. I love you. Andy was just fun. It would have ended after the finals. Well, it doesn't matter now. You can keep seeing him. I don't care. No, I don't want an open marriage. I want things to go back to the way they were before. I was a loving and supportive husband who trusted his wife, and you sleep with that bastard? I don't think so. I wasn't thinking of an open marriage. I was thinking of a marriage that wasn't going to happen. You can't think like that. We have plans. The house will be ready soon, ready for our family. When the house is ready, it will already be meant for someone else's family. I've canceled everything. No, you can't do that. I can. And I did, and just remember that you did. You dumped us. You dumped our marriage along with the weight. I hope it was worth it. Look on the bright side. Think about how good you look in your skinny jeans on all those dating apps. With those words, I walked out of the hotel into the sunlight. I took my friend Jane's hand and walked to the cab stand. Gail and Andy soon turned away from each other. Gail was telling the truth when she said it was just fun, but even their friendship didn't last. Gail became furious when she found out how much money I had lost. Her lawyer tried to prove that I had somehow defrauded her, but the judge was sympathetic and saw that in my depression over my failed marriage, I was a victim of addiction. It helped that Jane was supportive, and I was able to prove that I had sought help by joining a group called Gamblers Anonymous. They proved to be good company and were grateful that I took responsibility for the tea and coffee. This played to my advantage. Gail was furious, but there was nothing she could do about it. She was starting to get stressed again, and the last time I saw her, she had put most of her weight back on. I saw her when I was mowing the grass outside my new house. Yes, that new house. I may have lied a little when I told her I canceled construction. Fortunately, the construction wasn't completed until after the divorce. It was a family home, too big for one person, so I got a roommate, Jane. We're just friends for now, but I think we both know what's coming next, especially when her hand climbed up the pant leg of my shorts last night as we watched Netflix. All the best stories end with a happy ending, don't they?